Hello. Recently I posted a video where I was showing you the initial version that I made of a file system visualizer using threejs. So it was written in JavaScript, and the code needed some refactoring, and also the visual kind of the geometry that was rendered looked kind of crappy, so I was showing just an initial version, and I thought that I would be able to make it look much nicer, but I really kind of hit the wall, because I was trying to devise an algorithm to render all the nodes so that they do not intersect, to ensure that they won't intersect, and also not to make them smaller as the file tree grows and expands. And I tried, like, if you look, let me actually look, if you look at the very simple program that I made 33 commits to GitHub, and even it wasn't even a lot of code per se that I was doing. I was devising an algorithm, so I had to, remember some geometry from high school, and I was trying to really make an algorithm that would render all the meshes nicely, and they would look good. And I wasn't able to do that. And before that, all the projects that I made, that I did not finish, first of all, they were very ambitious, and even though I understood that they were ambitious, I kind of did not understand when I started them that they would be actually, that I would have to put a real discipline and effort to finish them. And as soon as things started, the complexity of those projects grew, I just gave up, not because I wasn't able to make it, I don't think, but because I was just, initially I was not ready to be persistent, to be disciplined, and to put in effort. So the motivation was only enough to start project, but not enough to finish. And it was like I was lazy, but and I came up with different excuses, right? Like, well, I have all the schoolwork, or I have errands, or simply I found another project I'm more interested in. But sad thing about this project is that I did put in effort, because I made a video and I posted it, so I really wanted to make the second version, kind of polished version of this file system visualizer, look really nice, and I tried. I really did, to come up with algorithms. I tested them out, all the different versions that I went through, and they all don't look nice at all, because I was simply experimenting with more kind of numbers than the rendering, kind of the algorithms. But I was just not able. I put in a real effort, and I don't know how to make what I see in my head work. Maybe it's not even possible to make this kind of algorithm that it's not gonna shrink as it expands. Maybe that's just the way you have to be making it. But perhaps there is a way, I just wasn't able to find it. Put in real effort. Once again, I wasn't able to finish it, so I deleted the kind of layout mode, and I left only interactive mode, and I don't really like how it looks. And I'm gonna show you kind of the final version. And if there is one thing that came out of this project that I really like, is a utility class that I wrote. It's a really simple utility class, but it lets you to add mouse event listeners to meshes in threejs. So let me go into code now. Here's this utility class, and actually I made a video, the one before that, so how to use this utility class, and yeah, it's like 70 lines of code, and yeah, and so what it lets you to do is add mouse event listeners to the meshes, but it does it in a certain way, so it utilizes three.mesh.name property that all the meshes can have. And so what I was able to do with mouse event listener, I did. So here, for example, I can press on mesh and it pulls the camera towards it kind of smoothly, like that. And it actually wasn't that difficult to do, especially with that utility class. So the way it is done is by, so here when I generate meshes, I give them a name. So for example, for directories, I give directory to each mesh that is represents a node of type directory, and for files I give files. And here I just this utility, I initialize this utility class and add a handler for every mesh that has a name directory, and so meshes can have the same name. Multiple meshes can have the same name, and so on click this function is called, and actually this function also lets you access the mesh. So here, camera pull point, I define a vector 3, a position to which camera will be pulled. I set it to the position of a mesh that was clicked, and camera is being pulled is true, and here it's just a logic for the interactive mode. So if it's a current mesh that we clicked and it's not root node, then we go to the so the current node is changed to a parent node, but that's not important in terms of camera pull function, and this as well. But so here in update and render function, or just kind of update threejs update function, we have to call mmi.update, and so when camera is being pulled, which is defined here, we just define dx, dy, and dz, which is gonna be the distance divided by 10. So it's gonna be smooth. First it's gonna be kind of faster, and then it's gonna slow down as it gets closer and closer to the mesh. And so we set the camera, and once we're pretty close to the mesh, we just stop pulling, set it to false, and interactive update, it's for, once again a logic for the interactive mode. And so once again, so I press here and it pulls camera smoothly, you know, and here I can go back, so to remotes, to origin, back to remotes, back to refs, back to git, and back to the root, another thing. And so if you're interested in that, in how to add these events listeners, so each mesh has this event listener that has a name directory, so we don't have to actually give to each mesh an event listener just once for type directory. So yeah, we can add handlers like that, and click is supported, double click is supported, and context menu, which is a right click. If you wanna see how to use, that's pretty much how you use this utility class, but I'm gonna leave a link to the GitHub for this script, so you can just simply put it in your code like that and use it. And there is a documentation for kind of an example and a documentation on how to use it, and I made the previous video I made was about this utility class. Also, I changed from orbit controls for the camera to first person controls, so that you can just traverse this 3D space based on the size. So if less or equals to 1000 bytes, then the kind of height of mesh is gonna be just kind of 1 unit, and if it's between 1000 and 100,000, it's gonna be 2 units, and if it's bigger, then 3 units. So as you can see here, so for example, readme is a smaller file, license is bigger file, lib is kind of big, right? In the description there's gonna be a link on the GitHub to the GitHub repository of this project of 3MMI, which is the utility class, and yeah, and that's it. Thanks for watching, bye.